Okay, so now we're going to talk about interest only and sinking funds. So what an interest only loan is where the borrower pays only the interest component over the period of the loan. So the loan might be 30 years long, but they're only going to make interest repayments. That's it. So that means that the principal amount that's at the start, like the principal value or the starting value of the loan, at the start will be the same as at the end. So if you borrowed $300,000 on interest only loan for 30 years, the $300,000 would be there at the start as well as at the end. So that's what an interest only loan is. So with an interest only loan, you still have to, at the end of that 30 years, that $300,000 is still going to have to be paid. So the way you have to pay is one big lump sum of, in this instance, the example I've given, 300 grand, let's say on a house that you've got, on a mortgage that you've got. So what you're going to do instead of trying to come up with this money, quite often people set up a savings account off to one side. They make regular deposits into that savings account so that when the lump sum is due at the end of the loan, they can just dump all the contents of that savings account onto the lump sum and rob it's your mother's brother, zero balance outstanding. Well, in that instance, that's what's called a sinking fund. So when you deposit money slowly, bit by bit, so that at the end of the interest only loan, you've got the lump sum ready to pay it all off, just to pay that principal amount off all in one hit. But throughout the year, throughout the term of the loan, you've not only been A, paying for the interest, but B, you've been putting money away into a savings account. This is just one of the many products that financial institutes offer. So the last thing I wanted to mention up here is that the book value is equal to the original debt minus the sinking fund. So when someone talks about a book value, is what is the value of that asset or what is the value of that debt on the books. So it's actually an accounting term. So it means, what is the book value of that debt that we've got on our balance sheet, as it would be called. So on our balance ledger. So how much money do we owe? So it would be the original debt minus whatever was in the sinking fund. So if we had, let's say, an example of, we had original debt of $100,000, and partway through the term of this interest-only period, so partway through the term of the loan, we've managed to put $80,000 into the sinking fund. That would leave 100 minus 80 leaves $20,000 left over. So $20,000 is the book value of the debt. All right. Okay, so now let's turn our attention to question 3. We're going to highlight the information as we go. So Michelle owns a restaurant. She needs to borrow $15,000 to pay for a new oven, which she plans to repay over 3 years. So $15,000 to a small business is quite a lot of money. You're not going to be able to come up with it overnight. So you're going to have to, in order to keep the doors rolling, to keep the business operating, you're going to have to borrow that money. Otherwise, you're going to shut the business up. All right. So Michelle obtains an interest-only loan with a flat interest rate of 6.5% per annum. She also sets up a sinking fund in order to repay the principal. The sinking fund earns 4.5% compounded fortnightly. Okay, so in 6A, we're asked to calculate the payment Michelle must make each month. So in order to do that, this is actually quite easy. So we take our 15,000 that we start with. All right. We multiply that by our interest rate, which is 0.065. Put that in brackets. And we're now going to divide that by 12 because we're looking at each month. So multiplying by 0.065, that'll give us the total interest over the year. Dividing that by 12 will give us the interest component per month. So we just use our calculator in normal mode. So it's 15,123 multiplied by 0.065 divided by 12 equals, here we have $81.25. There we go. Next, we're asked to find the fortnightly payments Michelle must make to the sinking fund in order to save the $15,000 in 3 years. So now we need to turn our attention back to our savings, like to our knowledge on savings and investment accounts that we used TVM calculator for before. So back in chapter 7. So find the fortnightly repayments. So we know that compounding periods will be 26, same as the payment periods. The final value we want to be $15,000, okay? The payment value is what we're going to solve. Present value is 0 because that's what we start with. We want it in 3 years. 3 times by 26. 3 6s are 18, 2 3s is 6, and the 1 is 7, so that's 78. Interest rate we're told for the sinking fund is 4.5%. Alright, so we go apps, enter, 78, 4.5, 0, payments we're going to solve for, final value is 15, 1, 2, 3, solve for the payment, we end up with minus $179 and 78502. So we're bringing that across, and we have to round that up. That's $179.79. There we go. Remember, the payment is going to come over here. We're negative because we're giving money to our savings into taking money away and giving it to the savings account in order that we get $15,000 back at the end of the term. Alright. Here we're asked to explain the advantage of Michelle setting up the sinking fund. Alright. So in this instance, Michelle would want to set the sinking fund up so purely that she has doesn't have a big $15,000 lump sum to come up with at the end of the year. Sorry, at the end of the term. So we know that each month she's going to have to pay $81, and each fortnight about $180. So total all up, allowing for 2.25 months per, 2.25 fortnights per month. That would be a little bit more than that. I'll convert that the other way. 180 times by divided by a little bit less. It's 40, 35. So she'd have to come up with in the order of $204, $205 a fortnight in order to pay that off. So from a small business, let's say a small catering company, that should hopefully be affordable. Alright. So that's what the advantage of setting up the sinking fund would be. So calculate the interest earned by the sinking fund. So here we can say the interest equals the final value minus the number of repayments that we had, which was 78, multiplied by $179.79. And what we've got here, that's the final value minus how much we've deposited into the account. So in this instance, this would be 15,123 minus 78, 179.79. Alright, so if we go into normal boring mode of the calculator, we can figure this out. So this will equal $976.38. There we go, and there's the answer. Okay, so here we're asked to calculate the total cost of the loan. So we know the cost total will be the final value. That's our $15,000, less the interest that we've made on the sinking fund, because that's basically money that we've made for nothing, so that's our $976, plus whatever interest we've had to pay on the interest-only loan. So let's just write that down a bit further. So we have 1, 2, 3, minus the interest on the sinking loan, sinking fund, which is 976.38, plus the interest on the loan is 3 years times by 12 months per year times by 81.25. Okay. Now if we plug this all into our calculator, we end up with $16,948.62. Alright, and there's our final answer.